This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
(6:15). Here is the news edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. The President says vaccines will be made available, giving priority to the districts identified as high-risk areas. The Prime Minister emphasizes that the priority of the government is to protect the people by giving COVID vaccines to everyone. Dorin Dorota Kapruka National Program to plant 4 million coconut saplings will commence tomorrow. Information revealed about the destruction caused to the tar factory during time of good governance government. Foreign news, India's Kerala state is on alert after 15 Zika virus cases reported. Sports news, the Minister of Sports and Sri Lanka Table Tennis Federation signed an agreement to empower high-performance program. Local news in detail. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that vaccines that are being received in July will be made available to the public, giving priority to the districts identified as high-risk areas for COVID-19 spread. Accordingly, the President said that 200,000 doses out of the total 2 million Sinopharm vaccines to be received on July 11th should be allocated for the Colombo district, 500,000 for Gampaha and 300,000 for Kaluthura in order to complete the vaccination of all persons over the age of 30 in the Western Province before the 30th of this month. A total of 100,000 vaccines each have been allocated for the Gol, Matara, Hambantota, Anuradhapura, Nuwara, Ratnapura, Badula and Matare districts, and 200,000 vaccines have been allocated for the Kurunegala district. It is expected to receive 1.47 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine within the next 2 weeks. Out of these, 600,000 doses will be allocated to the Colombo districts for the people who have received the first dose. The President instructed that the balance should be given as the first and second doses for the people in the Kagala district. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said plans have been made to administer the Pfizer vaccine doses to the people in Mana and Vavuniya districts. The President said that the Moderna vaccine, which is to be received, is planned to be administered in Kandy district. The President made these remarks at the meeting with the Special Committee on Prevention of COVID-19 outbreak held at the Presidential Secretariat this morning regarding the vaccination drive and future plans. Meanwhile, President Rajapaksa instructed that steps will be taken to provide more space for resumption of economic activities as a significant percentage of doses have already been given to the people. It was also discussed the need to brief the foreign diplomatic missions in Sri Lanka on the local vaccination drive and the current situation in the country. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the priority of the government is to protect the people by giving COVID vaccines to everyone. He said that security forces are providing an immense service to conduct vaccination programs methodically and speedily, overcoming all challenges. Keeping a note on the Facebook, the Prime Minister has expressed his gratitude to the health sector and security forces who are conducting vaccination programs day and night. Dorin Dorota Kapruka National Program to plant 4 million coconut saplings will commence tomorrow under the patronage of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at Baliketiya Chilo. 4 million coconut saplings are scheduled to be planted island-wide as a solution to the increasing demand of coconuts. Information has been revealed about a destruction caused to the tar factory during the time of good governance government, which earned a huge income to the Petroleum Corporation. Petroleum Corporation has earned billions of rupees by selling tar for road development and to the private sector. After 2015, State Minister in charge of the State Ministry has obtained a cabinet approval stating that tar industry is a low-income earning industry. The husband of a State Minister has obtained the contract to build roads in the country at that time. The Petroleum Corporation has revealed that all tar stocks at the factory and the property of the factory were sold to the private sector and the factory was made to close down. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank, celebrating 60 years of empowering the nation.
Continuing with more local news, MP Jagat Kumar says that Mr. Basil Rajapaksa is a strength to the President, Prime Minister and the government. He said that Mr. Basil Rajapaksa made a considerable contribution to achieve an economic growth of 7.3% following the end of war. He was speaking during Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana press briefing today. Parliamentarian K.P.S. Kumarasiri said that the President takes decisions on behalf of the country without thinking of political benefits. He said that the decision to use organic fertilizer should be commended. He further said that the opposition conducts protests to disrupt the successful vaccination program. The government has paid its attention on expediting bringing down tourists to the country. During a discussion with the representatives of 25 airline companies this morning, Minister Prasanna Ranatunga said that steps will be taken to uplift the tourism industry by implementing a new plan. The government aims to bring down a considerable number of tourists by the end of this year. More attention will be paid on implementing health guidelines. Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Poland, Dhammika Kumari Semasinghe, presented the letters of credence to the President of the Republic of Poland, Andrzej Duda, at the Belvedere Palace in Warsaw recently. The formal presentation ceremony was followed by a meeting between the ambassador and the President of Poland. President Duda, welcoming Ambassador Semasinghe, appreciated the long-standing ties with Sri Lanka and stated that Poland was keen to proactively expand the scope of bilateral cooperation for mutually beneficial in tangible outcomes. Ambassador Semasinghe reaffirmed Sri Lanka's commitment to further advance and transform a 6 decades-long bilateral engagement with Poland. He highlighted the potential investment opportunities available for Polish businesses in Sri Lanka prioritized areas. Additional District Secretary of Jaffna, S. Muralidharan, said that steps will be taken to resettle the displaced people in Jaffna district. He said the details of those to be resettled would be registered by the Divisional Secretariat. Additional District Secretary S. Muralidharan further stated that those who are resettled in their own places can check their details are available in the Divisional Secretariats of the area where they are currently residing. Eastern Province Governor Anuruddha Yahampath says that the government is ready to provide subsidies to farmers who are interested in organic fertilizer production. She pointed out that the livelihood of farmers has not improved due to use of chemical fertilizer. Governor Anuruddha Yahampath said this at a press conference in Batiklo yesterday. That ends local news.
Towards a new dimension in innovation, People's Bank, celebrating 60 years of empowering the nation.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Minister of Health says that another 1,451 coronavirus patients have recovered and discharged from hospitals within the past 24 hours. This brings the total number of COVID-19 recoveries in the country to 241,035. Sri Lanka so far reported 269,946 cases of COVID-19, while 27,000 of them are currently under medical care at hospitals and treatment centers. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to the development news, rather watchlight. Water supply to Colombo 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 will be suspended for 21 hours from 9 a.m. tomorrow to 6 a.m. on Sunday due to an essential maintenance work at Ambathali water purification plant. The water board said that water will be supplied at a low pressure to Colombo 14 and 12 during that time. That ends Watchlight. Moving on to world news, let's take a look at the headlines. India's Kerala state is on alert after 15 Zika virus cases reported. Toyota holds donations to Republican election objectors. China says giant pandas no longer endangered but still vulnerable. World news in detail. Health authorities in the Indian state of Kerala have declared a state of alert in all districts after identifying 15 cases of Zika virus. Kerala Health Minister Veena George confirmed the infections in Trivandrum district. India reported a Zika outbreak in the western state of Gujarat in 2016 and 2017. The mosquito-borne virus has been linked to shrunken brains in children and a rare autoimmune disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome. Although the virus is mostly spread by mosquitoes, it can also be sexually transmitted. Toyota has said it will hold donations to members of the U.S. Congress who voted against certification of President Biden's election victory. The Japanese company faced criticism over the contributions after the 6th January attack on the U.S. Capitol. Toyota donated more than $50,000 to Republicans who tried to block approval of the U.S. president's win in some states. It emerged last month. The company had previously defended the payments. Chinese officials say giant pandas are no longer classified as endangered but are still vulnerable. The classification was downgraded as their number in the wild has reached 1,800. Experts say that the country managed to save its iconic animal through its long-term conservation efforts, including the expansion of habitats. China considers pandas a national treasure, but have also loaned them to other countries as diplomatic tools. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. India's Kerala state is on alert after 15 Zika virus cases reported. Toyota holds donations to Republican election objectors. China says giant pandas no longer endangered but still vulnerable. That ends world news.
Development news is brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
The decade of action of the Sustainable Development Goals demands the mobilization of everyone, everywhere, grounded on a level of ambitions that supercharges ideas into concrete, bold and implementable solutions. Thus, we need to renew our determination to enact a multinational, rather multilateral response that gears green recovery efforts through multi-stakeholders partnerships. Nothing the importance of mainstream and contributing to the policy discourse on green development in Sri Lanka. The Minister of Power and the United Nations Development Programme in Sri Lanka, together with interested stakeholders, will convene the Colombo Development Dialogue Series on green development. That ends development news.
Development News was brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
On to the sports news. The Ministry of Sports and Sri Lanka Table Tennis Federation has signed an agreement today to empower high-performance program. The aim is to empower table tennis players in 3 stages for South Asian and Olympics Games under skills, abilities and talents. A fully equipped table tennis training centre is scheduled to be set up at Bandaragama area at a cost of 35 million rupees. A new program will be implemented to meet financial requirements of players who take part in local and foreign competition. Boxing news. Trilogy fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder in Las Vegas on 24th July has been postponed after the Briton tested positive for coronavirus. A source close to Fury told BBC Sport that WBC World Heavyweight Champion was deeply frustrated by this situation. Fury tested positive yesterday, and after discussions with medical experts, the fight was called off. It is likely to be rescheduled for October. That ends Sports News.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Alliance Finance has renewed its partnership with FMO, the Dutch Entrepreneurial Development Bank, by receiving a fresh funding line of $10 million in June 2021 to financially empower and facilitate the development of the micro, small and medium enterprise sector in Sri Lanka. The AFC-FMO partnership began in 2018, and AFC was successful in obtaining $10 million, which enabled AFC to finance over 15,000 micro, small and medium enterprise entrepreneurs in building up their livelihoods. That ends Business News.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
On to the economic news. The National Consultation Workshop on a Strategy for Sustainable Freight Transport in Sri Lanka was virtually held by the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, Embassy and the Permanent Mission of Sri Lanka in Bangkok, and the Ministry of Transport of Sri Lanka recently. Chief of the Transport Connectivity UNESCAP, Aza Jaimarzina, assured that UNESCAP would render necessary technical assistance in implementing the strategy for sustainable freight transport in Sri Lanka. Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Sri Lanka to Thailand, Charminder Kolonne, appreciated the efforts taken by the UNESCAP in conducting the assessment on sustainable freight transport in Sri Lanka and developing the national strategy. That ends Economic News.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
On to the weather report. The Met Department says showers or thundershowers will occur at times in western, central, suburban, northwestern and southern provinces. Heavy showers above 100 millimeter can be expected at some places in western and suburban provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. A few showers will occur at north central province. Showers or thundershowers may occur at few places in eastern and over provinces during the evening or night. Strong gusty winds up to 60 km per hour are likely at times over western slope of the central hills, and gusty winds up to 50 km per hour at times are likely in northern, north central, northwestern and southern provinces, Trincomalee district and western coastal areas. That ends the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasir, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
To wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. The President says vaccinations will be made available, giving priority to the districts identified as high-risk areas. The Prime Minister emphasizes that the priority of the government is to protect the people by giving COVID vaccine to everyone. Dorindurata Kapruka national program to plant 4 million coconut saplings will commence tomorrow. Information revealed about the destruction caused to the tar factory during the time of good governance government. Foreign news, India's Kerala state is on alert after 15 Zika virus cases reported. Sports news, the Minister of Sports and Sri Lanka Table Tennis Federation signed an agreement to empower high-performance program. With that, we wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka.